Hello everyone, this is Remlays from 40k Theories, and welcome to the January 2021 edition of the Patreon Q&A sessions. As always, if you would like your questions answered, then click the link in the video description below and help support the channel by becoming a patron. Now, let's jump into the questions. Voice of the Emperor asks, if a planetary governor's entire bloodline is deemed to be tainted, how does the Administratum go about deciding who takes their place? This is one of those things that seems to have a bunch of contradicting sources, so short answer, depends on the author. That being said, there was one instance that I can remember, but I can't remember the book off the top of my head, that the planetary governor was deemed tainted and corrupted. They sent the Astro Militarum to clear him out, and the commander of the Astro Militarum forces was installed as the governor militant. So I guess that's one of the ways they do it. Could the C'tan at the height of their power take on the Chaos Gods at their full power? Absolutely not. While the C'tan may have, dominance and control over the material universe, when it comes to warp entities, they are pretty much helpless. This is actually shown quite nicely in Sons of the Hydra, because there is a Shard of the Deceiver that withstands bolt rounds, missiles, plasma blasts, and even an orbital lance strike from a ship in orbit, completely unscathed, but it gets hit by a demon blade and it's taken a huge chunk out of it and it's in pain. If it can withstand an orbital bombardment without a scratch, yet a demon sword, really fucks it over, then absolutely not, they cannot take on the Chaos Gods. What happened to the Emperor's armor from the Great Crusade? It was broken down and divided amongst the 9 Loyalist legions. The Dark Angels, shown in Pandorix, actually got one of the gauntlets. I can't remember if it was the left gauntlet or the right gauntlet, but basically these pieces of armor then got broken down even further and got put into the Crux Terminatuses of each Space Marines Terminators. In fact, in Pandorix, they actually break open the Crux Terminatus of a Deathwing Terminator to get a sliver of this armor, so they can use it to shoot a greater demon, or I think it was a greater demon anyway, it was a big massive demon, in order to banish it. Pentadeus asks, energy shields are warp-based, right? So would they stop working in the presence of a blank? Void shields definitely are, yes. As for a blank deactivating it, I think they need to get right up close to the void shield generator, because otherwise, blanks are able to travel on ships, and let's be honest, if they deactivated a void shield with just being on a ship, they wouldn't let them onto the thing in the first place. As for ion shields, I'm not entirely sure. If you use trickery to show a bunch of orcs how to make a working mega explosive dagger gun, would it actually function should the orcs try to replicate it? They'll find some way to make it work. It's the orcs, they'll find some way. Mike Murdoch asks, besides the Tau, orcs and humans having bionics, do any of the other races like the Eldari use them? Yes, I think it was the 2nd edition Codex Eldar that said that the bionics of the Eldar are so advanced that they are visually indistinguishable from regular organic limbs. But that being said, you also got people like Prince Serial who's got a massive, obvious bionic eye. So, yeah. If the squads did survive and return like what was hinted in Psychic Awakening Pariah, will they return to the Imperium, join the Tau or another Xenos race, or continue to fight for themselves? Well, aside from those few squads that did integrate themselves into the Imperium after the fall of the Empire, the squads were not actually part of the Imperium. They were effectively like an allied state, because following the first contact with the squads during the Great Crusade, this resulted in wars that were so intense and ended in a brutal stalemate that the Imperium basically said, fuck it, let's just make a peace treaty with them and move on because we can't waste our time with these fuckers, which in turn allowed the squads to retain their autonomy and independence in exchange for supplying a small number of troops to the Imperial Army, and trade obviously. I can't imagine the Squats joining the Tau or any other race, considering that the Squats were said to be extremely xenophobic, even more so than the Imperium. That was one of the advantages the Imperium had with making an alliance with the Squat homeworlds, is because you have a massively xenophobic empire acting as a bulwark to protect your side of the Imperium from rampaging Xenos. So yeah, they'd probably just fight for themselves. Austin Horner asks, in the novel Darkness in the Blood, which I've not read yet, sorry, Mephiston upon his death during his transformation into a Primaris Marine sees a vision of 3 angels, one made of blood, the Sanguinor, and an Angel of Darkness. When the 3 angels combine, they form an entity that Mephiston identifies as Sanguinius, but the entity denies it. Is it possible that upon his death, Sanguinius' soul was shattered similar to Magnus and the Emperor, with different aspects forming the various angels, with a fragment being trapped upon the vengeful spirit? It's certainly a distinct possibility. I can see the idea of Sanguinius having his soul shattered. Yeah, that would make, some degree of sense, especially with the three angels that are supposedly in darkness and the blood. With Mephiston now acting as the prisoner for the Black Angel, in a similar manner to Ra Endymion's imprisonment of Draknien, do you believe that cases of the Black Rage will be less prevalent within the chapters of the Blood? No, I don't think it'll be less prevalent, no. Brent Feast asks, not counting the fact that Slaanesh can arguably be considered the god of anything that can conceivably be enjoyed, is there any sort of emotion or concept that, as far as you're aware, isn't really covered by any of the known Chaos gods? Not really, not that I can think of, no. Even if an emotion isn't covered by the 4 prime Chaos gods, they might still be covered by the minor Chaos gods. Like, for example, the concept of greed, for example. Not just like gluttony, just greed, wanting, to attain wealth. That was said to be one of the things embodied by Hashut. So I can't really think of anything that isn't embodied by one of the Chaos gods, major or minor. Given Caliban's original proximity to the Eye of Terror, and the similar appearance of the equipment the Caliban Jaegers from the Legion's card game to modern Cadians, is it possible for there to be some sort of connection between the two? I honestly doubt it. The Cadian uniform it's pretty much the generic guardsman uniform at this point. There are guardsman regiments that share, more or less similar or identical appearances. By the Death Corps of Krieg and the Armageddon Steel Legion, they look pretty much identical save for the colour scheme. Mordian Iron Guard and the Praetorians, their uniforms are pretty much the same except, Mordians have caps and the Praetorians have pith helmets. So I just think the Caliban Jaegers were just generic Imperial Army, to be honest. Darks asks, everyone asks why or if Remlays, but no one asks how is Remlays? How did the holidays go? How is the new year starting? And does chocolate exist in 40k? Yeah, and the holidays were okay. It just uneventful, worked as normal. Just normal day, to be honest. As for chocolate, from what I can recall, yes it does. Because there was chocolate cake in the novel Blood Pact, from what I can recall, with a subplot about cakes. I know I keep going on about it, but the fact there is a subplot about cake just is mad to me. Thomas Badkin asks, what is the best race on 40k for Melee? Orcs, Nids, Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, Khorne Berserkers, Gene Stealer cults, potentially, Pure Strain Gene Stealers. A fair good number of potential possibilities. Griffin of Might asks, how did the Custodies view the Minotaurs, especially in their relation to how they supported the Hexarchy in their attempted rebellion? They're not fans. In fact, that's actually one thing in the novel The Regent's Shadow, that when Asterion Moloch, the chapter master of the Minotaurs, shows up, the Custodies pretty much have the reaction of, oh no, not this fucking idiot. They're not fans, let's be honest. Was the reason the Emperor ordered Magnus back to Terra along with his legion to force Magnus onto the Golden Throne, or would he have given 1,000 Sons a means to redeem themselves? The official reason as to why the Emperor ordered Russ to bring Magnus back to Terra was to put him on trial, because not only did Magnus break the Webway project, he broke the Emperor's edict. He broke the law. So the official reason was to have him stand trial. His punishment may have been, sit on the Golden Throne, sort this shit out, but we'll never know. As for giving 1,000 Sons a means to redeem themselves, if you read Fury of Magnus, you'll find out that they are completely irredeemable. Will you ever do a follow-up to the Theoreticus Heresy series? Maybe, but I have no idea what to focus on. Aspertes asks, would you consider the 20th Legion to be the final perfected Legion, at least gene-wise, in the eyes of the Emperor? Considering that Index Astartes Volume 4 states that the gene seed of the Alpha Legion is prone to developing extreme mutations, I doubt it. Zero Hits asks, Happy New Year, or Happy New Year to you too. Do you know if the Imperial Guard ever get any Wartborn assistance like with the Living Saints or the Legion of the Damned? Yes, the Living Saints and the Legion of the Damned. They come to the aid of Guardsmen as well as Space Marines on assistance of battle. Brandon A asks, is the 40k language of Low and High Gothic like modern day English? Would we be able to understand one another? Low Gothic, might be like English. High Gothic, no. High Gothic is essentially a bastardized version of Latin. Like, for example, we take the Kakarodon Zastra Space Marine chapter. Kakarodon Zastra is actually High Gothic for space sharks. So Low Gothic might be more similar to modern day English or some other modern day language, but High Gothic is basically a new version of Latin. What are the more popular weapons to use in the Imperium, auto weapons or las weapons? It depends upon the planet in question mainly, but from what I can see on average, it tends to be that the Imperium favours like las guns over auto guns, because las guns are effectively cheap and cheerful. You know, they're easy to maintain, they're easy to repair, and in regards to the power packs, you can recharge them by plugging them into an outlet, solar panels, or even chucking it into a fire to recharge it using thermal energy. Yes, that is a thing, it's weird, I know, but still. Sebastian Seages asks, and I apologise if I said your name incorrectly, do we know the specific process through which Custodies are made? The specific process? No. The only thing we know for certain is that Custodies are made through the use of what is termed biological alchemy, and that it is such a niche and precise art that like only 3 people in the entire Imperium know how to do it. Yeah, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, but it's like a very stupid number of people on Terra know how to do it. Like, literally, like 2 or 3 people in the entire galaxy. It's ridiculous. Jonkin asks, is it ever clarified what the other sentient constructs of the Necrons are, like the scarab spiders and plasmacytes? I think they're AI, to be honest. I'm pretty sure it's clarified in at least one of the Necron codices, but I don't know off the top of my head because I don't read up too much about Necrons, to be honest, because I find Necrons personally kind of boring. You know, sorry, but that's just my personal opinion. But I think they are artificial intelligences that were created by the Necron tier to serve for various purposes. Do the Necrons have active factories for the production of replacements, both in terms of lost body parts, but also weapons and buildings? Again, from what I can recall, Tomb Worlds do have like a manufacturing type area upon them. Like when a Necron's body is damaged or destroyed and it phases out, a new body is constructed for that Necron to have their consciousness transferred into. You know, if it can't be repaired, it'll just go straight into a new body. So because of that, there has to be a process of them being able to have like a manufacturer to pump out all these replacement bodies at a, accelerated rate. So yeah, I mean, these are probably at like the very heart of these Tomb Worlds. Like, it's not going to be like with the Imperium where you have a dedicated Forge world. Like, the Tomb Worlds themselves will be doing it because a lot of Necron technology is implied to be, like nanite-based, like nanotechnology and stuff like that. So you theoretically don't need as much room to manufacture things like you would with a traditional Imperium Forge world. And finally, Lucanron asks, is there a Primarch or Legion that you honestly dislike on a personal level? A few, but if I mention them here, it might cause a flame war. How do Navigators gain their third eye? Are they born with it killing all of the people seeing the baby, or does it suddenly gnaw its way through its forehead? As far as I'm aware, they're born with it, but in regards to them, killing people with that third eye when they're born, I'm not an expert on this, but as far as I'm aware, babies generally aren't born with their eyes open. It generally takes a few hours for them to open their eyes after being born, like they're born with their eyes closed from what I understand. I could be wrong, I don't have kids, I can't have kids, so I won't never know this. But hey, that's a different issue altogether. I imagine when a Navigator baby is born, its eye will remain closed, and its instinct will be to keep that eye closed unless, it has to be more of a conscious effort to open the eye, as it were, rather than a natural reflex. But aside from that, I don't think it's ever been touched upon, so it could be just a case of Games Workshop saying, don't think about it. And that concludes this edition of the Patreon Q&A sessions. As always, if you would like your questions answered, then click the link in the video description below and help support the channel by becoming a patron. Until next time, this has been Remlays from 40k Theories, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye!